Good evening. I am Chair Nathan Sticks, calling to order the Newcastle Community Activities Commission meeting of April 10th, 2024. The time is 6 p.m. This public meeting is being recorded, broadcast live, and may be viewed later on the city's YouTube channel. Before we stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance, I will apologize in advance for my hoarseness, but my allergies are acting up and I've been coughing a lot, so that's why I have this deep voice. So please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Amy, will you please make note that Commissioners Van Atta and Kretzinger are excused, and would you please call the roll?
Thank you, Chair Sticks. Commissioner Forsborg. Present. Commissioner Lee. Commissioner D'Souza.
Present.
Vice Chair Flash.
I am here.
Chair Sticks.
Present. Thank you. Next is agenda approval. Is there any objection to approval of tonight's agenda as presented? If not, please show the final agenda approved as presented. And Amy, do we have anyone for public comment?
We do not.
Thank you. Next, are there any comments and celebrations anyone would like to share?
I'm just would like to share quickly, and I'll talk a little bit more about it in my report, but I went to the Trails meeting this month, and it's great to see so many people, and so many people enthused about trails.
Well, I would like to officially give some condolences to Ed and his family for the loss of their dog of many, many, many years. That made me very sad.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, let's go right into reports. Amy, events and recreation. And I want to just thank Ed and Amy for sending me your online copies in advance.
Alrighty. Some of this we are going to address more deeply at the as part of the general business. However, if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt and ask. I'd like to give a shout out to the Newcastle Historical Society and our local scouts who volunteered to help clean up the Newcastle Historic Cemetery on March 30th. It informally it's kicked off our Earth Month of activities, and it was well attended. And the next cleanup is scheduled for Saturday, May 25th. The spring recycling collection event was hosted on April 6th. There were 265 cores who dropped off their recyclable materials, which was great considering it was spring break and there were a number of other events happening throughout the region. Final numbers will be posted online upon receipt.
So I went to that event.
Oh, great!
And was there at like 11:30. I was the only one driving through, so I decided to stop and talk to the young lady that was, is it Keely, who was kind of managing. And one of the things that I thought was interesting is she shared that other events where there was a mailing seem to get a lot more focus, a lot more attendance, something for us to just think about for the future.
Yes, so as part of the event is hosted by a grant, and as part of the grant, it's no longer feasible to do a mailing, so we do our best to try to get out on King County websites, our own communications, but yes, a mailing does bring in a lot of folks. Agreed. I'm glad you attended. And for those of you who need more shredding, Home Street is hosting shredding next week. Next week at their Newcastle office. Sundays with a Cop was that Sunday, April 7th, and it was another success. Thank you to the Newcastle Police Department and Frosty Barrel. The next Sundays with a Cop is on Sunday, May 5th. Earth Day 2024 was launched at the end of the March with events through April, and that is a discussion item on our agenda, so we can talk more about that then. Like to mention our summer sponsorship program materials are live on our website and in the hands of our chair and vice chair to do outreach to businesses. This is ongoing through the next month and a half, and the deadline for sponsors to sign up is May 24th in order to ensure that they get their logos on the banner if they'd like, or if they choose that particular sponsorship level. Some perhaps new information for some of you is that the town hall meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, May 7th at Risdon Middle School Commons. The program begins at 7 p.m. with doors opening at 6:30 p.m. And that takes the place of the regular first council meeting of the month. Yes,
And
Nathan.
just FYI, I've already let Scott know that I will be helping man the CAC table that night. So if anybody else wants to join, let me know. Let us know.
And then finally, on the events side of things, the ribbon cutting for Lake Bourne Crosstown Trail Boardwalk is going to take place on Wednesday, May 8th at 2:30 p.m. A short program is being planned, but a large invitation list is going out. That includes our 41st Legislative District representatives who were instrumental in helping secure funding, and then a number of commissioners, council members, volunteers, staff who have been or were involved in the project. So those invitations will be going out shortly. Questions about that? Allison?
Is that the same date as our May CAC?
It is. Yes.
I'm sorry, tell me again the time.
2:30 p.m.
Thank
for
you.
the ribbon cutting, and the meeting is at 6.
And are we expected to do anything? Are we?
No, not at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. But thank you for asking.
Yeah. Okay.
Certainly, if you had ideas, you're welcome to share, but there's no expectation that the CAC plan or do anything. On the program front, just a reminder, Skyhawk Sports Programming has returned to Lake Bourne Park with the offering of the preschool soccer tots at Donegal. The spring season starts this Monday, and summer camps are now also open for registration. And as you know in the email I sent out earlier this month, the first issue of the volunteer newsletter went out on March 22nd. It's going to go out once a month, with the next one going out on April 19th. Thanks to everybody for their feedback and for the support in getting that going. And now my hope is to get folks signed up, get more opportunities out there, and continue to build that community of volunteers. And then finally, I know everybody is looking forward to getting information on this front, an update on our Parks and Trail Planner recruitment process. The first review for the Parks and Trails Planner takes place on this Monday, April 15th. We currently have 14 applicants according to City Clerk HR Director Westman, and there's a lot of good choices. Yeah, very strong candidate pool. Any other questions about anything on here?
When do they think that position's going to be filled?
It generally takes some time, but my understanding is hopefully by end of May, because someone would likely have to, if they're already in a position, would likely have to give 2 weeks to 30 days notice.
Thank you, Amy.
Yep.
And one thing I want to share on the Earth Day 2024 launch was my wife and I went to the park every day with our daughter's 2 dogs this whole last week, and enjoyed walking around with the storm water signs, trying to find them, reading them, and understanding them. That was fun. When I first saw them, I was like, Wait, what's going on here?
So I will pass on your compliments to Marley Kirkham, who put that together for Newcastle Days and then adapted it and revived it for Earth Day. So it's going to be up through probably early next week, as we want to make sure that we preserve the signs for potential future use as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was good. Okay, committee reports. We'll start with the Newcastle Arts Council. Vice Chair Flash.
All right, thank you. So we have a very busy schedule. Seems to be filling up more and more. I'll just highlight a couple of items that are coming up. April 27th is a Music of North India concert at the library. Newcastle Arts Council is doing a culinary tour of Newcastle, and we want to thank Tapatio, Mod Pizza, Jersey Mike's, and Frosty Barrel for hosting us for a day each month in the months of April, May, June, and July, so one a month through those months. And some of the proceeds from sales on that day at those locations is going to the Newcastle Arts Council. So thank you for our local businesses supporting us, and if we could support our local businesses, that would be great in that endeavor. We're doing a pop-up art event on May 19th here in the parking lot at City Hall. So thank you to City of Newcastle for providing the space for that. That's going to be primarily to make things for the little free art gallery, as well as the rock garden. They're both located here at City Hall. Newcastle Arts Council is participating in a multicultural night at Newcastle Elementary School on May 22nd. And we're also doing a rock painting event at the park, Lake Warren Park. We do this every year. First weekend in June. Last year we had, I think, 120, 150 people show up for that. So it's a big event for us. And that's going to be on June 1st. Looking forward, we are finalizing plans for a film series at Aegis Gardens. We did that prior to the pandemic hitting, and that was a huge success. So we're reinstating that now that things have opened up at that venue, and they have a very nice theater there that holds about 30 people. We are collecting items for a recycled mural project at Lake Warren Park. So we're collecting them here at City Hall, and as part of our Earth Day celebration, we will be collecting them through at least the end of April, depending on how many we get or how much volume we get, and probably going into May as well. But we'll be doing that mural sometime during the summer months. And then for the fourth year in a row, we'll be doing an art fair on July 20th at Avalon Newcastle Commons. There's an application for vendors, for art vendors to have booths there that is out on our website. And if anybody is interested, we'd encourage you to sign up to have a booth there. It is free, as we're trying to promote local artists and artists in our community. And that is all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Commissioner Lee, Newcastle Trails.
Thank you. As I mentioned earlier, I attended the annual meeting, and I will admit that it was my first time attending an annual meeting for Trails, so it was really nice to see lots of people. And I will say also, there was a gentleman, I forget his name, but he's is somebody who has been on Issaquah City Council several years previously and is involved with Issaquah Alps, and he commented how Newcastle Trails is kind of the envy of lots of the local cities groups because of how engaged they are in their just their activities. So that was really nice to hear. Trails is lamenting Davi's departure, but looking forward to the replacement. So that's been a big issue for them. And at that time, they were still looking forward to hearing about the date of the opening of the trail. So it's good to know that we have some information for that. I'm sure they'll be thankful for that as well. It was great. I really glad I went.
Thank you, Allison. And Shally, any updates on the YMCA?
Nothing new, just Healthy Kids Day coming up on the 20th.
Thank you. Connie, any updates for library and Friends of the Library?
Yeah, so as always, there's multiple events every week going on at the library, so would urge anyone to check out the kingcounty.gov website for the full list, but I wanted to highlight a couple unique events taking place this month. So on April 20th from 3 to 4 p.m., there will be Earth Day Origami, sponsored by the Friends of the Newcastle Library. And then on April 30th from 6 to 7 p.m., there's an author talk. The author of Day Hiking Columbia River Gorge will be there to talk about the new book and also show a slideshow of different things that you can see when hiking in that area. So yeah, also sponsored by the Friends of the Newcastle Library.
Great, thank you. Don't forget to send me your notes. Yes, sir.
And can I add one more thing? The Diamond Awards is coming up on, I believe it's May 2nd at Aegis Garden. So if anybody's interested in attending that, which is a wonderful event, it honors some local businesses and individuals in the community that have made a effort to make this place a better place. It's nice. It's a great community event, and nice to honor those people that have put forth an effort to make Newcastle special.
Okay, that leads us into general business, and first thing on the agenda is Amy Earth Month.
Alrighty. So as I mentioned in my report, Earth Month was launched sort of softly at the end of March with the historic cemetery cleanup. And each week we've been loosely or somewhat following the different stewardships that were outlined in the flyer that Shali designed last year and that we modified for this year. For things coming up, I want to call your attention to the scavenger hunt that Nathan mentioned that is happening right now in Lake Bourne Park. It's the storm water system, so you get a chance to visit 10 stations and learn about our storm water management system and then find all the letters and complete a phrase. We are also going to be helping to turn Newcastle blue by promoting on social media Adopted Rain. That's going to be ongoing throughout the year, but we will try to really focus in on it this week and early next. And then we're going to be moving into the stewardship of rejecting fast fashion, which is a big focus for Earth Day 2024.org. And I am hosting a sewing event here at City Hall in the Chambers on Thursday, April 18th from 7 to 8. And it's anybody wants to come, bring their mending. Anybody wants to come and learn how to sew on a button. That's what it's here for. It's just a collaborative opportunity for people to help each other learn how to make basic clothing repairs, and we'll provide some basic sewing supplies. Also upcoming is a Weed Warriors event. So we are going to be tackling some invasive plant species in Lake Bourne on Sunday, April 21st from 12 to noon. That's being headed by our surface water management folks, because obviously we want to protect our native species who help protect these critical areas. So if you could help get the words out on those events, that would be terrific. And then we are going to wrap up the month by talking about keeping it green. So that's when we'll really push out the fact that we have these really awesome compost bins here at City Hall. And we're going to encourage folks to decorate them and send in their pictures. And then finally, at the end of all of this, folks will be encouraged to complete an online form, tell us what you did, submit a picture, and we will recognize you. I'm going to draw up a certificate for folks so that they can earn something for having participated and telling us they participate. So that's kind of what's left to go, but I wanted to ask folks what they think about how it's going so far, if they have any feedback about what's happened, what's coming up. I'm happy to take that.
I've enjoyed seeing things online. I am intrigued by the scavenger hunt that Marley created because I haven't been down to the park in a long time. So I will make myself go do that walk, so that'll be nice. But I want to ask you, Amy, too, if you would please repeat the time slot for the Weed Warriors. Noon to 12, you said, so. if you could
Noon
help
to
us out.
2. Yep,
Noon to 2,
on
thanks.
Sunday, April 21st.
Okay, thanks.
I'll just second that. I mean, I think the advertising for what we're doing and promoting for Earth Day has been very well done. And if you haven't gone to the park for the scavenger hunt, it's a lot of fun.
Well, then, we purposely discussed putting it up during spring break when there would be a lot of young folks visiting the park, and thankfully the weather has largely cooperated with us.
I think one of the things is maybe there should be a sign at the entrance when you walk up that there is something happening. There's really no publicity of it. You just walk around, you're like, there's a sign over there.
Maybe even something at the other end, too, at the north end of the park.
Yep.
For foot traffic.
Excellent, thank you. That's very helpful.
All right, thanks, Amy.
I just want to say thank you, Amy, for getting everything pushed out and rolled out. And it doesn't seem very like it's all at one time. It's spaced out really nicely, so thank you.
Oh, thank you for that feedback. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I really do. Knowing that the cadence seems to be working well
Yeah.
to get out there but not be overwhelming.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, next on our agenda is summer sponsorships. So Ed and I met with Amy beginning of April and actually went through the packets, confirmed the companies that we're going to be reaching out to. I believe we have close to almost 100 businesses, and Amy actually just sent us a list of businesses that were either missing from the list or people that we've tried to get over the years. And so she's reaching out to everybody right now with a letter. So the letter's gone out. We've already heard back from one business that was on my to-do list, and they've already agreed to be a sponsor, DIYT. So all my hard work paid off. So we're in the process right now of either emailing some of the businesses with the online access, which is nice. Thank you for setting that up, because we've never had that before, or getting ready to hand out our packets. So that's kind of our update. And Amy already alluded to the fact that we have till May 24th is our deadline. So anything to add?
Just if anybody else has any suggestions on folks we should be reaching out to, let us know.
Is there a list somewhere of who you've already, that we could reference? Okay, maybe just.
So if you go out to our SharePoint site, there's a folder for sponsorships, and you go to 2024, and all the materials are there. So applications, we have an Excel spreadsheet that Ed and I are managing. You can look at that, know who we've spoken to, if we've spoken to them, dates. I mean, we've got everything there. Yeah.
And then, so summer sponsorships, is that for just Newcastle Days, or what does that cover?
Good question. So we talk to the businesses about sponsoring all of our events, the concerts, fireworks on the lake, and Newcastle Days. We get specific into certain things, like for Newcastle Days, the car show, because we need people to sponsor trophies, and we do separate advertising for that. And so if there's a business that wants to be the overall sponsor, they can direct their funds towards that. Otherwise, the funds go to basically all of the summer events. Yeah, good question. Any other questions, thoughts? If you do, let Ed and I know. If you get any feedback from any businesses, if you're in a restaurant having lunch or something and somebody asks you a question about it, let us know. Okay.
Chair Sticks, I will, once you and Vice Chair Flash have had a chance to get out with businesses, and particularly those who have sponsored with us in the past, I want them to have the first option for that coveted $5,000 spot for the banners over Coal Creek Parkway. But after some time, I will be doing some promotion or informational on our website so that home-based businesses who maybe want to participate have that option, as well as folks who maybe work with businesses outside that want to sponsor as well.
Okay, next on our agenda is summer bands. Back to Amy.
Alrighty, so this has been kind of fun. It's been a little bit of a whirlwind in the past week. We booked Pioneer Squares, which was the band recommended by Commissioner Van Atta, and folks felt that they were a really good fit for our concerts to bring to us. And fortunately, they were not available for Newcastle days, but we have booked them for August 7th. And they have some Newcastle roots, which is really terrific to have that connection. And they're the general rock blues cover, really strong stage presence, great social media reach. So we're really excited and super responsive band leader. So that's been fantastic to work with them. So then from the huge list of bands that have either reached out to us or have worked with us in the past with help of Kim's feedback, who really is the expert on this, because she not only attends all the concerts, but has been working on this the past several years, and even before 2020 was working on concerts. So we narrowed down the list to about 20, and at Commissioner Kretzinger's suggestion, we created a rubric, but we found that was a little cumbersome. So anyway, we have narrowed it down based on sort of, I'm looking at, what's the appeal, or we want bands that are going to appeal to the type of audience that we have, which is generally a lot of families of different ages coming to have a picnic in the park and enjoy some music as well. I'm also looking at presents. Do they, as Kim said, you can tap your toes to them while you eat, but then by the end you're up and dancing. So we want bands that do that. I am also interested in their reach. Like, do they have a solid online presence? Do they have the ability to help us cross promote to make sure we're reaching a wider audience of folks? And then finally, are they going to add to the overall variety of the programming that we have for this summer? So I would very much like to book it next week, and I have narrowed it down to some bands that I like. Commissioner Forsberg has already said, yep, those are good. But feel free to go in and take a look. I am very excited about Boogie Boulevard, which is sort of disco funk dance, and they're playing Maple Valley 4th. So they have a great stage presence, a lot of fun. Latin American jazz experience, which is going to be a little bit different for us, but there was a lot of enthusiasm for swing bands, and they do swing jazz, but a Latin American feel to it. And so I'm hopeful they're in our price range and they're available. Another band I'm looking at having return is Stage One. They've come pretty much every year, and they're just wonderful performers, wonderful folks to work with, and they do a lot of rock, blues covers. And then another band I was looking at is Between Two Gregs, which is doing Bellevue 4th of July, and they are a local band as well. Most of them live in the Renton Highlands. They do a combination of rock and blues covers and originals. And they're a little bit different from the other two, the Pioneer Squares and Stage One. And what I love about them is they all grew up in Newcastle. So I'm going to be reaching out to those. I also have some backups should those bands not be available, but those are the ones I'm targeting. So if you have any feedback on any of that, please feel free to let me know. I'm going to start, making some calls next week. And for those of you who would like country, I really, really did work to find country. I spoke with Aaron Crawford's agent either late last week, and he was willing to come and do a duo, so him and another, for one of our concerts in our price range. But that's going to be hard to hold in our particular venue. So, but we'll keep an ear out. There are some options on our list for a country-ish, so they are kind of my backups to the backups. So if you want to see the spreadsheet, it's in the fireworks and concerts on the SharePoint. Any questions, concerns, comments?
In that spreadsheet, are there links to actually see like YouTube videos?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
The only other thing I'd add is I know we briefly started brainstorming how we could include our foundational principle to make sure that we're keeping a solid grasp on what Newcastle residents like listening to, what their music tastes are. So Amy and I had just briefly discussed that as this group is volunteering at the booth during the summer concert series, that we could come up with some sort of like a flyer to get people or a way to capture as people come up that we're asking what their favorite types of music are, if they have any suggestions for bands that they know of or just genres that they would appreciate seeing for next year. So then we'd have that information and just a pulse in that way, because I think on our ends we're watching these YouTube videos, we're speaking to these bands, but it might be really nice in the future to have those anecdotes to say this is what people are really wanting to hear.
That's a great idea, and we should have either the band announce it, or if whoever's doing the introduction, usually it's the mayor or the vice mayor that introduces our bands, they should say, and we'd love your feedback. Go over to the city booth and let us know what kind of music you'd like to see in the future. That's a great idea.
Both are great suggestions. I appreciate that, because I'm really hopeful that we can get a good 80s cover band in here. I actually found 2 really great 80s cover bands, but I want to hear from the folks whether or not that is their preference. So I think it's a great idea to hear what their preferences are.
Well, and something that I just thought about. So Ed and I are challenged with some of the local restaurants that might not be able to give us money as a sponsorship, but they might be able to give us gift certificates, which then helps to drive people into their stores. We could also have a drawing. Go to the booth, fill out the card, and we'll give you a raffle ticket. And maybe we come up with some other ideas of things we want from the public, and then we can raffle off a gift certificate. Yeah. Seeing what we get. Okay, anything else on summer bands? Well, then just take it away for Newcastle Days.
Just once you have the bands lined up, can you just produce a flyer so we can start distributing that?
Yeah, absolutely, yes. My goal is to have it by town hall. All right, so Newcastle Days, the subcommittee has a meeting on Monday, but in the time, between our meeting in March and our meeting next week, I've been working on a few things, so I thought I'd update you with that and find out if there's any questions, concerns, comments. We have booked the car show coordinators, and I'm meeting with them late next week to get that process going, get a flyer approved, so we can get going on getting the car show advertised. I have been working to book the big things, so the inflatables are booked, the beer garden is committed, the junk chime is booked, and the petting zoo has been booked as well. As we discussed, so typically the petting zoo and the ponies are for 4 hours, but we discussed having them for 5, particularly because we had such an increase in visitors last year. We wanted to make sure that we have things for people to do, and we meet the needs of the people who are attending. And so I'm happy to report that we are booking the petting zoo from 11:30 to 4:30. We also discussed starting a little bit, staggering the start times of some of the activities, that being one of them, and we are able to do the petting zoo for 5 hours. I am still working on reaching the pony rides. My next step is to invite some of our groups who do activities for us. So the robotics team, the scouts are doing carnival games, and they have been, according to Scoutmaster Boris, they have been planning and are very excited to expand upon what they did last year. Was fantastic. The Arts Council and Library hosted activities, and the Historical Society hosted activities and tours. So that is on my list next. Any questions about what I've mentioned so far? Okay. So just before I reach out to the pickleball folks, I didn't know if anybody had any brilliant ideas about the tennis court space. Now, we do not have to use every space in the park, but I didn't want to, if you had a brilliant idea in the past month while you were traveling or chatting away, I didn't want to move on from it before we, if you had something.
And the robotics team doesn't want to use the tennis courts?
No. It's a mutual decision. They didn't get a lot of traffic down on the tennis courts. It's very hot on the tennis courts. So we moved into the upper picnic shelter last year, and it worked really, really well for both an activity standpoint on the city side and then the robotics team. It was a great placement for them.
My personal opinion is we've all fought the fact that the tennis courts, it's just hard to get people to want to go over there, that we just leave it as tennis courts.
Yeah, I think that's why we had the thought that the pickleball tournament might be the only thing that came to mind that could work there, because if you're coming to the park for pickleball, to go to the tennis courts versus something where we're trying to pull people in there who are just wandering. That it's not as clear that you should wander that way, but if you're there for something specific, you might go and then stay for longer to take part in the rest of Newcastle Days. But I also think it could be fine to just have nothing on the tennis courts. Yeah.
Okay.
But is the pickleball tournament still taking place, but like the day before, just like this past year? So that area, the tennis courts will just be empty for the day. Will people be allowed to still use the tennis courts for things like tennis?
They'd still be open, I guess, yeah. I don't see why
I
not.
can certainly ask if the maintenance and public works would prefer that it be closed for fear of people bringing food on the courts. So we can certainly look at the logistics of having it open to the public. But in theory, yeah, I would think that they could be open.
I, for one, am a pickleball player, so if I were playing in the tournament and working at Newcastle Days, it might be a little conflict of interest, especially as the chair of the CAC. I'll be very busy with that, so.
Well, and the pickleball organizers also have dual duties that day as well.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling, I will offer to see if that works better for them, but I have a feeling that there's a reason it's on a Friday night.
And it helps to promote doing things over the Newcastle Days, we'll call it week, the week of Newcastle Days, getting people involved in more activities over more days. Yeah.
Alrighty, so the last thing I wanted to share with you is my current thoughts on the cadence of how I'd like to roll out different calls for different items regarding Newcastle Days. Just to get your thoughts on it. So technically, sponsors is not unique to Newcastle Days. It's for all of sponsors, but that's the first thing that goes out that we start recruiting for, and that was April 1st. The deadline is May 24th, and that is solely because we need to get the logos in place to have the banners printed and then up over Cold Creek Parkway. And there is, in some cases, you'll hear we need to also announce a selection. We do not do that for sponsors. They want to give us money, we will take it. The next thing I would like to start looking at is food, making sure that we have our food vendors in place, not just for Newcastle Days, but for all of our events, the fireworks and the 4 summer concerts as well. So I would like to start putting out a call for food vendors on April 29th with the deadline of early June. And then a selection by June 21st for everything but fireworks. Fireworks, I'm going to have to make that decision earlier to give them enough time to get their their King County health licenses or permits. Nathan.
And we're doing the food trucks ourselves this year, right? Last year, we've used a gentleman.
It's my understanding that he retired. So yes, I believe we are doing the food trucks ourselves. And feel free to send me recommendations. People have been sending me recommendations of food trucks that they like, and I can certainly outreach to those folks if you happen to have a connection or favorite person that you like.
Do you still have my hot dog vendor from last summer? Do you remember?
I probably do not. So
I've
if
yet
you
to
could
see
send
a
that
good
to
hot
me.
dog food truck at any of our events. And this guy was at one of the Newcastle golf tournaments, and their hot dogs were fantastic.
Okay.
So I'll get that information.
Please
for
do,
you
because
again.
anything that was emailed over a year ago is archived. So I probably do not still have that. Okay.
But we do also have a Excel file started in the Newcastle
Yes.
folders of the food vendors and like drink/dessert or something. There was another tab that was something slightly different where we're
Yes,
collecting
so we had started to look into dessert food trucks for potentially for songs of the season. So I have some suggestions there. We had also considered maybe Asian cuisine food trucks for Lunar New Year. So I have some Asian cuisine. I think I might have renamed it to main meal or something. But we're looking for everything. And then other people like Chief Kajihiro has a friend who has a Hawaiian barbecue truck. So yeah, whoever, send it that way and I can add it to the spreadsheet, or if you like, you're welcome to put it in the spreadsheet, which is on SharePoint.
At the risk of inquiring out of order, do we have somebody lined up for coffee for Newcastle Days?
We do not, but it is on our list of things to line up, along with a potential bakery.
Do you have a thought there, other than what we've done in the past?
It was my experience that we didn't do anything last year, and we had for the volunteers. We had some coffee for the
Oh,
volunteers.
you're talking about like a coffee truck for
Somebody
the day.
among others, somebody for car show people to purchase coffee and donuts or something like that. There was a huge call for that last year. We probably lost. I mean, if we had somebody, we could have sold a whole lot. Anyway,
Good call.
I know I've sent to Amy a suggestion, and I'm going to try to catch them at one of their dates sometime soon. See if I can vet them.
Cool. Thank you for that. So the next call that goes out is for stage performers, community groups who want to perform on our stage. So that call is going to go out May 6th, so early May, with a deadline of June 14th and a selection by June 28th. For that, and that's primarily to make sure any school groups are well aware of the schedule for September. But it also really helps us in terms of doing the script and the cadence of the stage and how the day unfolds. The next call will be for community and vendor booths, because by June 3rd, when the call will go out, we'll have a good sense of how many sponsors are going to want booth spaces. The deadline for that will be July 19th. We will let them know that they've been selected August 2nd, which is 2 weeks later, so that gives them 6 weeks to prepare. We will also have a payment deadline on that one. And then finally, our parade is the very last thing we do a call, and we do that pretty much at the very end as we're gearing up all of our promotion for Newcastle Days. The call will go out middle of August with a deadline at the end of August, and we pretty much everybody who wants to be in the parade generally gets to be in the parade because it's a community parade. And we do also we do already have a email entrance. The Hazen Marching Band is coming back for the parade in Newcastle Days. Yeah, the director reached out to me a couple weeks ago.
That'll be live.
Yes, I'm very excited. They definitely were a lot of fun last year. So any questions, comments about what I've proposed here? I know I'm giving it to you all orally, but if you heard any red flags or have any comments, I'd happily take them.
As we reach out to schools, and I'm thinking particularly of high schools, I think it might be a good idea to at least consider also including, as we send out to the schools, oh, by the way, this is going to be a great volunteer opportunity for some of your juniors and seniors or whatever, just to kind of give them the heads up, because I think we were really way behind last year for whatever, variety of reasons, but just kind of giving them a heads up for students to be considering things.
Good idea, thank you. Especially because they can participate in the parade and then volunteer, stay and volunteer.
And then our vendors are going to go out with just the vendor list. Okay.
Yeah, we're not having a separate art fair, so the call would go out at the same time.
And I'd like us to see putting together a subcommittee for the whole check-in, checkout process, so that we have a really good plan for what everybody's going to be doing, how we're going to communicate, how we're going to organize, and make sure that, last year we struggled a little bit, and I think we could make it more efficient.
Yeah, and I think it'll maybe be a little bit more complicated because there's going to be more people in the field. And so logistically, whereas last year we had two different distinct locations, and so people kind of segregated in two different areas, but now everybody's going to converge on one area at the same time. So,
Although we're going from 90 vendors to less than 90 vendors. So I think in some ways it's going to be a little bit easier as well. But yes, everybody's headed to the same place.
And I have a quick update on our anniversary cake. I have a call into the regional operations manager for Costco. I've not heard back from him yet, but as soon as I do, we will have an update for you guys as far as I'm sure Costco would be very happy to support us again for a birthday cake. Amy will just need help with logos and we need to discuss, do we want to just to say happy 30th birthday Newcastle? Happy anniversary Newcastle? What did we say on our
I would have to
25th?
go back and look at pictures to see, but I do remember a big logo in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we could get an actual picture of the one that we could just give that to Costco, that'd be great. So you
So-
could get,
didn't we do a 25th anniversary logo? And I think
we did.
that's probably what ended up on the cake was the logo. But yeah,
You might be
it was
right.
a big fat logo.
but we could do a 30th logo.
So I don't know that there were plans to do a 30th logo specifically, but we could have them adapt from the 25th.
Or
on the
just take
cake.
our logo, since it's already
Yeah.
established, and just say 30th birthday. Keep it cost down.
So I do have pictures of the 25th cake, so I can take a look at, or I can share with you so you can take a look at what was said.
Yeah, you could share it, that'd be great.
Yeah, and I think Dana Sullivan did the 25th year logo. So he's not here locally in Newcastle, but it still is in Washington, and we can reach out to him if we wanted to do it. If we could ask him to do a quick change to 30, if you wanted to go that route.
Amy, anything more on Newcastle Days? Thank you. Perfect. Update on third spaces, Vice Chair Flash.
Yes, so as part of our work plan, we agreed to look at different third spaces around Newcastle. So I have started an Excel spreadsheet out there. It's on SharePoint. I've populated with a few things, sparsely populated at this point. My plan is to put more out there, but I ask if you could go out there and do two things. One, literally list anything that you can think of. There's a bunch of columns that list different criteria and different things, but if we could just even start with, here's a raw list, and then we can fill in some of the details later, that would be great. Again, it's out there on SharePoint. So the idea is to think about, and as well, there's a tab that defines links to some resources that define what a third space is. And it's some examples of what some other cities have done in their research and their analysis. And so if you want to look at that too, there's one article in particular that does a really great job of defining what a third space is. So I would even start with that, but literally list anything that is a gathering place or a meeting place. And that could be a park, it could be a business, it could be a public domain space, where people gather and congregate, so we can come up with a full list of inventory. And it'll be up there and available. So please list things as you can.
Good question.
Yes.
Only spaces in Newcastle or around?
Great question. So it should be around Newcastle. So what we're kind of defining is the Newcastle area. So I would, if there's, I'll just throw out an example. The swim club in Newport Hills should be on the list, right? Because that's close enough to our vicinity that it's accessible to us, and it kind of defines the area around Newcastle. Great question. That's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Update on 30th anniversary. Ed?
Yeah, so I'll just make one comment, and maybe others have others to add. But we have started. Commissioner Van Atta and Commissioner Kretzenberger and I have met and started a list of people that have made an impact on Newcastle. So we have a list, and we've reached out to a few of those folks already, asking them, telling them if they're going to be honored, or we're asking them if they want to be honored as part of creating Newcastle and having an impact on the community. We've received, so they're being asked to send in a picture. They're being asked to answer 5 or 6 questions. One of them being, what impact have you made on the community? And so we wanted in their own words. We've received, I think 10 or so back from people already. It is a dynamic list. The plan is then, once those inputs have come back, that we're going to then feature them in the city newsletter, honor them some way going forward. So whether it's one of our meetings or at Newcastle Days, yet to be determined. But the question I have for the group is, we only received input from 3 people. Do we want to make, and we'd like your input, obviously, so take a look at that list as well and see if there's anybody that you want to add. There's a column there for their name and then some notable facts about them. So if they were involved in organizations, if they were on the city council, or they were part of a commission. But the question I have for the group is, do we want to make a general announcement to the public asking for their input, and how do we want to do that?
I almost feel like not inviting the public to comment or provide suggestions might make it less subjective. But you don't necessarily also want 500 suggestions. So, yeah, it almost seems like we should, but maybe just kind of as a last. I mean, how many have you received already?
So there's just between the three of us and a few others, there's probably more than 30 on the list. Let's put it that way. I can't remember the exact number, maybe 50, 60, something like that, of potential people that we thought. And there have been one or two that have said, gee, thank you, but I don't want to participate. It may make it whittled down a little bit. I mean, most people are really excited to be part of it and truly honored that we
But
thought
you
of it.
said only 3 have actually sent something back. Is
No, we have about 10 or so that have sent something back, and we've reached out to close to 20 already.
My thought is, let's not force it. If you've got a good list, and we should all review that list, and if we get back 10, great. Then we recognize those 10. But I don't think we should open it up to the public.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
Can you remind me, what are we doing with the finalists? Is it, I thought at one point we talked about a newsletter, but are we gonna do all of them at once? or-
No,
Oh.
we're doing them over time. So as they come in, so we picked 5 or 6 to start off with, sent out a note to them saying, here's your deadline to send something in. And then we picked another 5 or 6, sent out a deadline. So we're trying to stagger them. And the idea is as they come in, we'll feature them in the city newsletter and on the website. So Amy's kind enough to have created a page with, it's going to house their picture and then whatever commentary they put in, the answers to the questions, or some people send in something slightly different, which is fine too.
Were either of the local magazines open to us not advertising, but, putting a call out in there?
Yep, absolutely. So we've reached out to Newcastle Living, and they are happy to produce something, so we're working on a cadence for that as well. Yeah.
What about the Greet? Is it Greet and?
Great Newcastle and Newport Hills.
Yeah, let me double check if I reached out to them. I'm pretty sure I did, but I haven't heard anything back, but I'll follow up if I have not. Yeah.
If it helps to think about this question that Vice Chair Flash is asking, on the website under the community events page, I've added a tab for 30th anniversary, and the landing page for 30th anniversary introduces this project. And it does include language that acknowledges the Community Activities Commission doesn't, it really works hard to recognize and be aware of everybody, but may not be. So if you have somebody you'd like to suggest, the call to action is to email. So someone does have to take that additional step of emailing with a name, contact information, and explanation on why this person should be considered, or persons should be considered. In that language, it also explains why these people are being honored. So it's on the landing page on the website, which is where people will be directed in the newsletter to learn more about the project. It's also the landing page for where to see the list of all the folks who are going to be honored as they are uploaded to the website. So that may be helpful in knowing that there is a public call out there. It's just not on social media where everybody can comment, everything and anything they want.
Well, I will say for my part, I have not added any suggestions for names, but I will do so. Or at least I'll check the existing list to see if anybody I can think of is not already on there.
One suggestion I had, if I may, is that there is the town hall coming up. That's an opportunity to, if you wanted to ask people in attendance, if that might be something the CAC wants to do at their table.
Yeah, so that, I thought about that too, so really that's a question, if we want to make some sort of announcement at the town hall that this is an ongoing initiative.
Well, and we could have a sign at the CAC table as people are walking in that says, you know, is there anybody in particular you'd like to recognize that's, you know, been important to Newcastle, and they can fill out a little something.
Yeah, or just direct them to the instructions on the website.
Yeah.
That's actually not a bad suggestion. Amy, is that something you could put together?
So we'd have a sign at the CAC table at the town hall that would say, do you know somebody that you would like to see recognized, that's been an important part of our city? And here's how you do that.
Yes, that is something I can put together.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah, great idea.
You could use my picture as an example. I don't know. Okay. Anything else on Anniversary Ed?
Nothing from me, but I know there was discussion at the last meeting on some other ideas around celebrating the 30th. So I don't know if anybody else has anything to add to this discussion. Okay, cool. Nope, that's it. Thanks.
Okay. Next thing on our agenda is the recipe of the month. And Amy, you said you've got some information to share.
Yes, so I connected with Commissioner Van Atta when the agenda was went out, knowing that she was going to be not able to attend the meeting, to discuss with her, what she'd like to have shared, and it was her feeling, and also I have to say I agree with this from my scheduling standpoint, that to wait until the fall to launch this, mainly because we're putting a lot of things in front of people right now from the commission, and the concern was that this was going to get lost in the shuffle of things that the commission is putting out. And so a fall launch, when people are returning to their kitchens from having picnicked all summer, is a really good time to launch a program that'll take us through the winter and beyond.
I think that's a wonderful idea. Especially when you start to think about fall leaves, and then you've got, Thanksgiving, and you've got Halloween, and good time to be baking and promoting the holidays. Okay, great idea. Okay, last thing on our agenda is the work plan check-in. And Connie's already nailed it when she was talking about, as we're looking at the projects that we're working on, the subcommittees we're working on, always have this near and dear so that we can look through it and say, we're actually able to accomplish this as we're working through some of the things that we're helping to promote. So I did not feel we needed to go through it line by line. But again, as we're thinking about promoting something, are we accomplishing some of the strategic directions that we set forth to do? And for the most part, I think we are doing a great job in managing this. So hats off to everybody. Anything to add, Ed?
No.
Okay. So that concludes our general business. Amy, do we have any additional public comment?
We do not.
Last thing is our planning calendar. Our next CAC meeting is scheduled for May the 8th, which, as Amy already said, that afternoon will be the ribbon cutting for the new boardwalk, which I happen to walk around, not on it, it's closed, but walked around it today, and it is spectacular. First rate.
You walked
Yeah.
around it?
So I walked on the Coal Creek side, and then I walked on the park side around, just around it,
Okay.
without actually stepping foot on the boardwalk, and it's just beautiful.
So I was lucky enough to actually step on it a couple of weeks ago before Davi left, and it is, I agree, it is really nice. It's gonna be top notch, so really excited for it to open.
Does anyone know, has Davi been invited to the ribbon cutting, and is he attending? I know he might be at work.
on the list, so he will be invited. However, a bit of personal news on his part. His wife is expecting baby number 2 like a week or 2 before that. So I really am hopeful that he will be there, but would completely understand if he's got a lot going on. And when I hear news of baby number 2, I'll also let you know.
Okay, does anybody have anything further? Okay, with that, the time is 7:05, and I will make this meeting adjourned.